share entire screen.
Is it screen 2? All right. No, will it see me or not? Yay, there I am. Pardon me. Can you hear me now? All right. All right. Little technical difficulties this afternoon. This is my first try at this. I'm not very technically savvy, I guess. But good afternoon. I know it says Saturday on there, but it's actually Sunday afternoon, January 5th. Thought I'd get on here and talk a little bit about what's coming this evening and through Monday, and maybe talk about what's happening next weekend briefly. But I guess we'll get started here. Like I said, this is the first time, so bear with me. All right, here we go. This afternoon, we have dry weather across Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, but to the west, there's a storm brewing, and snow is spreading across the Ohio Valley. Tennessee Valley has rain, and in between, there's a mix of precipitation this afternoon. There's even probably a few thunderstorms down in Arkansas and down toward Mississippi. We're going to watch this steadily move to the east this evening. There's lake effect going on up here east of Ontario. The stuff that was around Lake Erie has generally diminished as expected. And the stuff up here in New York State will continue this evening. But our eyes are on this right here, coming to the east. This afternoon, it is cold outside from the northern plains through the mid-Atlantic and the northeast. It is almost below zero up here in the northern plains. Thankfully, we're not there. But there's a warm area coming up through the Mississippi Valley, and that's fueling the moisture from the western Gulf of Mexico. We can see that it's very dry from the northern plains to where we are in the mid-Atlantic. And there's moisture again coming up as the higher dew points are coming up in the Mississippi Valley. The relative humidities this afternoon are in the 20s to low 30s here, but they will be increasing this evening. And we have high pressure extending from the northern plains to the mid-Atlantic and the portions of the southeast. We'll come down regionally here and look at what's going on this afternoon across the area with temperatures and what it looks like. We have generally high pressure to the south, a weak area high pressure, but the main area is way up to the northwest. Precipitation is coming into the mountains, into southwest Virginia right now, but it's going to have a hard time, at least early to mid-evening, farther to the east, given the dew points are 3 around Richmond and 7 up in Maryland. And it's going to have a hard time saturating the lowest levels early this evening. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get here, but it will eventually get here toward mid to late evening from west to east or southwest to northeast. We can see on this blue line, that is where the snow is occurring at 2 o'clock as far east. Some light snow almost to Roanoke. Blacksburg has some light snow. Most of the snow is farther to the west in southwest Virginia and into Kentucky. Meanwhile, to the east, as I said, it's still dry, but the clouds have increased across the area. This is a busy map. I know this is my situational awareness display, but you can see across the country, the main action is the storm. On this radar picture, you can see how extensive the snow is from Kansas into southwest Virginia. And there are some showers and thunderstorms down into the western Gulf. We have our low pressure system forming in Arkansas, sandwiched between the high to the southeast, east of Florida, and the high up in the northern plains. And this combination of the cold air coming down from the north and the warm air from the south is creating this collision in the mid-Mississippi Valley. Quite a bit of snow has occurred already in Kansas and into Missouri, and it's extended now into portions of Indiana. And you see the winter headlines are quite extensive as well. Even a blizzard warning here in Kansas and Missouri, but winter storm warnings extend all the way to the east to southern New Jersey and the eastern shore of Virginia and Maryland. We've got a very active pattern coming up through the day tomorrow. Not too concerned about thunderstorms, but down in this part in the Gulf states, any time of year is a thunderstorm time of year. We're almost to the time when it might start again in the spring. But there is a nice, interesting thunderstorm chance up into Kentucky, and that may lead to thunder sleet or thunder snow in portions of Kentucky this evening into tonight. We don't have to worry about that this far east. Show this radar. You can see how extensive the precipitation is. A lot of this to the east in Virginia is not making the ground in Virga, or dissipating as it reaches the ground. Thunderstorms again down here. You can see the bubbly nature of the precipitation in Kentucky. That means it's probably mixed precipitation. This blue line likely separates where the snow and rain or ice line is, from snow in this area to the north and northeast, and frozen precipitation or liquid down to the south. Satellite photo shows the clouds have arrived, and they will continue to lower this afternoon and evening across the mid-Atlantic. Quite an extensive amount of clouds. You can see the wind starting to pick up behind this storm that's over Arkansas, which is right there. I'll put an L there. Let's see if I can get it right. About right there is a low. Oh my, let's get rid of all that. Ugh. Start over again. Like I said, I'm new to this. I'm having trouble. But anyway, the low pressure's there. The wind is coming down from the north here and from the southeast here, feeding our storm. This is where the blizzard warnings are. Generally, winds up to 30, 35 miles an hour, and visibility is down below a half to a quarter of a mile. So this storm is headed east, and I'll show you what's going to happen here in the next 24 to 36 hours. We use two models mainly, or I do for the most part. GFS is one, that model. European is the other. This is the GFS model, shows our low pressure over the Arkansas and moving across Tennessee. You can see the precipitation comes in this evening. That's midnight right there. And you can see the snow, and the mixed precipitation is in the pretty colors, pink and purple, and a little bit of orange in there, but pink and purple is mixed precipitation. So you see it comes in this evening in earnest from west to east or southwest to northeast, continues overnight into tomorrow or Monday, and then heads as the storm heads off the Virginia Capes late Monday night. Quite a bit of precipitation comes across, especially after midnight tonight, maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning through about probably mid or about noon to 3 in the afternoon tomorrow. Might be a break midday and into the early afternoon in the precipitation. We do have to watch for behind the storm an area of lighter precipitation in the form of mainly snow or snow showers as the flow and the wind comes back from the north and increases and cold air starts to come in. So there's a two-pronged concern here for winter precipitation. One overnight tonight and Monday morning. The other one is later Monday afternoon or evening as the storm departs. And then it just moves off to the east and out to sea. And I'm not going to talk about what's over Texas at the moment. The European has basically the same thing. Comes in from the west, spreads across, and then there's a little area that comes in tomorrow evening and then goes offshore. What's interesting to note is right there, about 4 in the morning, between the GFS, is right here. That's about the same. No, that's not about the same time. This is about the same time. About the same time. This area right here. Oh no, I did it again. This area. Uh, this area right here is heavy precipitation. Right there. It is about the same on the GFS coming in by morning in that same area right there. So, what the models are trying to do is hone in on an area where the heaviest precipitation and the most likely precipitation is going to be the longest, it looks like. And it's about the same as it was last evening. So, the main difference, though, as you can see, is the pink and the orange and the purple color, whatever. The GFS is much warmer with ice spreading all the way up into northern Virginia, all the way to I-95. The European does not have that, has mostly a snow event, and really kicks it up. Really kicks it up by morning tomorrow. Generally from Washington, D.C., Baltimore down to just north of Richmond and then off to the coast. The GFS tries to do that a little bit, but there's a lot of mixed precipitation involved, especially to the western portion of that area. So there's probably going to be a pretty intense area of precipitation tomorrow morning in that area, and that will lead to the most problems, especially rush hour and through midday. And that's when the highest communications and accumulations will be, and the concentration of precipitation rates will be the highest. So the worst weather conditions will probably be for travel during that time. And then, like I said, later snow heads off, or later precipitation is at the end of it, and it moves out. Wait a minute, I got something on my screen here. All right. I'm always asked the question, why can it snow at 40 degrees and rain at 28? Well, here's the reason. You need cold throughout the atmosphere for snow. Sleet, a little bit of warm air aloft with cold air at the surface. So the snowflakes melt and then crystallize and then then it freezes on the ground as sleet. Freezing rain has a deep warm layer with a marginal or lower depth to the warmer air, or to the colder air at the surface. So the rain comes down and freezes on contact, and then all rain is just warm throughout the column below where the snow is forming. So what our problem is going forward is these three and finding out where that is, because if we have too much of the freezing rain, then we limit this snow. And if we have more cold, then we have more snow, then we have the freezing rain, and sleet is kind of in between and very difficult to forecast. So the main concern is the freezing rain and the snow. Sleet is not, I mean, it pings a lot and it bounces and carries on and things like that. But most of us meteorologists worry about the freezing rain and the snow and where that's going to be. So what we use is soundings, and we're going to look at a few here. This is for Southern Virginia, between Richmond and Petersburg. This is this evening. You can see that it's not warm, or I mean, it's not moist all the way down. When these two red and green lines are together, that means it's a moist atmosphere. Dry is when it's separated. So it's starting to saturate, like I said before, and it gradually reaches the ground overnight. And then, as it's reaching the ground, it's a mixture of precipitation. As you see over here, it's sleet, it's snow, it's, very close to freezing. This blue line, if you can see it, is right there. That's the freezing line. So if these lines get above that freezing line, there's a warm layer above, and that causes the precipitation to melt to a certain degree. The bigger that nose is of warm air, let's say it's all the way out here on this graph, the more likely you have freezing rain. The closer it is to this blue line aloft at this level, the more likely you are to have sleet. And if it's on the other side of the line, it's most likely snow as the predominant precipitation. So, as expected, the mixed precipitation in the southern Virginia up to Richmond, probably through you know early morning tomorrow. But during the day, you see that it does get sufficiently above, so there is a greater chance for rain during the morning and into the midday hours in that area. Now we'll go a little farther north, and I'll show up toward between Baltimore and Washington what's going on. We'll go back to the one before. This evening, it's going to be, look how dry it is. Precipitation is going to have a hard time this evening getting there. It's very dry, below 10,000 feet or so, 12,000 feet. But it does gradually come in and moisten from top to bottom. And you see that it starts to snow probably between 2 and 5 in the morning. All the lines are below freezing, so this is snow. What happens through the day is it stays all snow, or it tries to dry out aloft, and then you get freezing drizzle or something at the end. Like I said, sleet is very minimal here. I mean, there's no warm layer here, so it's predominantly snow in that area. So we use these soundings here as meteorologists to determine where the rain, snow, or ice line is. It's always fun when the line is in between, and around just north of Richmond is probably where that will be. And that looks like, let's see what sounding looks like tomorrow morning. So it's going to be in that area somewhere. That's 0Z. That's not it. This is it. 7 o'clock in the morning. As you can see, it's close to freezing, below 10,000 feet. So it's trying to say freezing rain here. So the freezing rain mixed with snow and stuff may reach Richmond by 7 a.m. tomorrow. See, that's at 6 a.m. right there, and that's snow. So in that time frame, there's going to be a potential mix. But the colder European does caution me to say maybe it's slower than that because it's not as warm of a model. We'll go forward here with the snow predictions because everybody wants to know that. This is a model prediction of the GFS through tomorrow evening. You can see extensive snow cover all the way into Virginia. The best snow is across central northern Virginia into Maryland, and including the Eastern Shore, which is kind of rare. I mean, with typical winter storms, the ocean is still in the 40s. So you get any wind off the ocean or near the ocean, and it doesn't snow. But this system is coming from the west to the east, which is a little unusual for our snowstorms. So it limits the amount of ocean influence, especially outside of Southeast Virginia and coastal Carolinas. But you can see the extensive snowfall. 4 inches, Richmond area, up to 4 to 5, 6 inches in Washington, D.C., 3 to 4 in Petersburg, Salisbury about 4, and up in Harrisburg about 2 or 3. European really goes wild. And that's not I wouldn't put that out of the equation because it does have a good track record with forecasting snow events. It does have, I showed you that intense area of precipitation occurring tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon in this area right here in Virginia to DC, just south of Baltimore, just north of Richmond. These totals may be a little high, but it's probably going to be a significant snow event, especially since we haven't had one in 3 years. So I like to use ensembles, which is when you take a model and you run it 50 times and it comes up with different solutions and then it composites them together and you get probabilities of what can occur based on those or probability distribution based on what these models runs of the different starting points give you. This tells me what the high and low end of this event potentially are. So in Petersburg, it's 0 to 2 inches. In Richmond, it's 2 to 6 inches. In Baltimore, Washington, it's hard to read, but 3 to 8 inches, 3 to 7 inches up in Harrisburg. It's 2 to 5 inches and 2 to 4 inches up towards State College. That I use that to blend in with the other models to make sure we're keeping it at least in control. I mean, you don't want to go out with a 24-inch snowstorm, which is kind of rare. So these are like the limits, speed limits, as you could say, the top end and the bottom end of what is potentially with this event. They become very useful in that manner. Okay, so now that and the other thing I do want to mention is the freezing rain potential, which is on this model here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? There it is. It's right here. Now, it's, oh, wait a minute. Let's get this to there. All right, this is through tomorrow evening. You can see the freezing rain potential. There's quite a bit of it across Kentucky. Ice storm, power outages out there, most likely. Our question is here, especially in central and southern Virginia, is how much ice there is and how long of duration it is. If it's not much of a duration, then we don't probably get that much. If it's a 12-hour period of freezing rain, then we could get, up to a quarter of an inch of ice, I would think, or a little bit more than that. The prime areas usually are west of I-95, out across the Piedmont and into southwestern Virginia. This is a little tamer than the model runs last evening. As far as that goes, it had it all the way up into northern Virginia as far as freezing rain. So it has trended a little bit down in that part. I would expect ice to be in this area as I showed on the soundings. So typical southern Virginia snow event, they're very rare to have all snow, and this one will not be any different. We'll go out further. Again, I like to use ensembles as we go out further, because using just one model run of the model run is not capturing the picture of what could happen, since you could have 50 different solutions to a model run. This is the composite or the average of those and shows what was happening in the future. And they're good for using in the future. A lot of meteorologists use the deterministic models and then go out with monstrous snow events 10 days from now and the crazy start and everything else, when they was probably better suited to look at ensemble forecasts, which show trends but do not get specifics like that. So we have our storm tomorrow going offshore. As you would expect, is pretty consistent on the models. If you ran it 50 times, it's probably pretty close. So you're getting a pretty close depiction in first 24 to 36 hours. Ensembles are mostly, or I've used them in the past for medium and longer term forecasts, not for the near term, except for maybe the snow accumulations, which come in handy because it puts the guardrails on for a snow event or a precipitation event in general. So we go through this goes away, high pressure builds in, it's cold and very cold. This is going to be a cold week. This is the coldest week of the winter, no doubt about it. It's going to struggle where there's snow on the ground. It is not going to get above 30 degrees. It may not get above 25 degrees in a lot of places for several days. So it's going to be very cold. There's going to be some wind with it also, so the wind chills will exist. The nights are going to be down in the teens to in the single digits, especially over snow cover. And the more snow cover you have, probably the colder it will be. So it's cold. This is a cold high coming down. And gradually it does lighten up a little bit toward the end of the week, and the wind does come down. But we see trouble in the south, in the Gulf of Mexico, and that comes across the southeast and off the South Carolina coast. So there is a trend towards something potentially next weekend. The ensembles are showing something near the coast or just off the coast that needs to be watched. So I will continue to watch that. The reason I will show you, just as a, okay, I showed you the ensemble. This is the deterministic run for the end of the week. And this is why you caution using things like this. I will show. This is through the week. Here it comes. This is next weekend right there. First thing on the news tomorrow or this evening. Well, they'll talk about this event coming up now, but the first thing will be after that is that right there. There's a major storm possible Friday into Saturday with snow, and the world's going to end. That may not necessarily be the case. It may be farther to the east, like the ensembles say, or trending, or it could be over top of us in the mid-Atlantic and come up and be rain at the coast and snow farther inland. So it's something to look at. This is just one of the maybe 50 of those ensembles that are averaged together. This is just one picture of all of them. So you use caution when you use these. And a lot of people just go right to this and say, this is what's going to happen. Well, I've seen many times. In fact, this last storm, let me see here. I can go back. What day was it? I'll show if I can find it. Let's see here. Is this it? No, that's not it. Let's put it right here. Let's put it right there. Let me see if I can find this. I should have looked for it earlier. Several days ago, if you were using this thing, it was, oh, it's not even there. So it has to be one of these. I don't know where it is. Anyway, one of the model runs that came in around New Year's had this storm for this weekend or tomorrow into Monday way down here and had snow across Tennessee, Jackson or Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina. This whole storm was way down here, ice storm all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. And look what's happening today. So that's why you take it with a grain of salt when people show these type of things and start hyping things outside of 3 or 4 or 5 days. You got to be very careful about this stuff. And there's more what I call fantasy land even further out, because there's another one after that. There's that one there. That's the middle of next week. And then there's another one later next week that's now warmer than it was before. So we'll see. But anyway, the highlights of this upcoming event are this. It's going to be a very impactful storm. It's going to be a very impactful storm. We haven't had one in 3 years. Be very careful. Travel is very difficult tomorrow from probably central Virginia up through Maryland, maybe into southern Pennsylvania, including the eastern shore areas, Delaware, up maybe to southern New Jersey. But it's going to be a nasty storm with all sorts of precipitation types. There's going to be snow predominantly to the north and northeast, mixed precipitation across Virginia and southern Virginia, and then rain farther to the south. We do have to watch for tomorrow evening, Monday evening, or late in the afternoon and evening, periods of snow, maybe some snow showers across all of the area. There might be some additional accumulations of that with the wind blowing from the northwest, and it's going to turn cold. So while the temperatures go maybe to the mid to upper 20s north tomorrow, and mid 30s to low 40s in the southeastern Virginia, tomorrow evening they're going to come down, and that's going to maybe, depending on the timing, evening rush hour could be a little dicey too, but it's going to turn colder tomorrow later in the day. And then it's very cold after that, and brisk and dry Tuesday into Wednesday. So here's the snow that I'm leaning toward at the moment. A big area of 6 inches in this area. Baltimore, Washington, just north of Richmond, the eastern shore over to the Delmarva, back into the mountains. And I didn't put all the ice back here because there's going to be quite a bit of ice in West Virginia and in the eastern Kentucky. And that ice is going to extend to the east. Like I said before, the biggest ice will probably be the typical areas in the Piedmont west of Richmond. That's usually where it occurs because the cold air, what we call cold air damming, lingers there, and it's tough to warm up there, while the temperature east of I-95 and south of Richmond can get to 32, 34 degrees. To the west of there, it struggles to get to 30, 31 degrees. I'm just picking the area where it's most likely to be that way. And then the 1 inch line, maybe to State College, maybe north of Philadelphia, and maybe down to the border. I didn't include Norfolk and Southeast Virginia. Depends on how much is left over behind it, but you never know. And then it's just rain mostly down in North Carolina. So anyway, my advice is to just stay safe, and travel will be tough tomorrow, and it will be cold this week. So any questions or comments? And other than that, I will move on. And everybody try to have a good evening and stay warm.